Reshoring. It's a term that's been buzzing around the manufacturing industry for quite some time now, and for good reason. Simply put, reshoring is the process of bringing manufacturing operations back to the United States after having outsourced them to other countries. It's a hot topic among manufacturers who are constantly seeking ways to keep their businesses profitable, competitive, and, let's be honest, sustainable in a rapidly changing global market. But what does this really mean for businesses, consumers, and even the economy as a whole? Let's dive into the advantages and disadvantages of reshoring, because, believe me, there's a lot to unpack. First off, let's clarify what reshoring is. Imagine a company that used to manufacture its products in China, shipping them across the ocean to sell in the U.S. Now, instead of facing shipping costs, customs duties, and the risk of delays, they decide to bring that production back home. This not only cuts down on transportation costs and time, but also allows for better quality control and oversight. Who wouldn't want to ensure that their products meet the highest standards? Now, why are companies making this move? There are several compelling reasons. One of the most significant factors is the rising labor costs overseas. As economies in places like China and Mexico grow, so do their labor costs. What used to be a cost-saving measure for companies is becoming less and less effective. Companies are realizing that they can often manufacture at comparable costs right here in the U.S. without the hassle of managing a complex global supply chain. Speaking of which, quality control is another major reason for reshoring. When production is overseas, it can be challenging to monitor the quality of the products. You might be relying on third-party manufacturers who may not share your commitment to quality. By bringing production back home, companies can oversee the entire manufacturing process, ensuring that every product meets their standards. This not only leads to better products, but also boosts consumer confidence. After all, who wants to buy a product that's been manufactured under questionable conditions? And let's not forget about productivity. When companies reshore, they often find that they can increase their output. Why? Because they're cutting down on transportation time and can focus more on production and innovation. Plus, with new technologies emerging, reshoring can actually be done more cheaply than outsourcing. It's a win-win situation. Lower transportation costs are another significant advantage. The global supply chain is becoming increasingly complex, and the costs associated with shipping products from overseas can add up quickly. By manufacturing closer to home, companies can save money and pass those savings on to consumers. This is especially important for businesses that produce high volumes of products. Having greater control over the supply chain is a game changer as well. Companies want to know where their materials are coming from and how their products are being made. Reshoring allows for direct access to suppliers and fosters stronger relationships. This can prevent issues down the line and ensure that production runs smoothly. Innovation and creativity in the workforce also flourish when manufacturing is local. Companies that reshore can tap into local talent and expertise, leading to faster innovation cycles. They can respond to market trends and consumer demands more swiftly than their competitors, who may still be relying on overseas production. Safety is another critical factor. Companies want to ensure that their employees are treated fairly and work in safe conditions. When manufacturing is done overseas, there can be a disconnect regarding worker safety standards. Reshoring allows companies to provide better working conditions, fair wages, and benefits, ultimately leading to happier employees and a more productive workforce. Shorter lead times are a huge perk as well. Think about it. If a company is manufacturing in the U.S., products can be delivered much faster than if they're shipping from halfway around the world. For retailers, this can mean the difference between having a product on the shelf when it's in demand or missing out on sales opportunities. But before we get too carried away with the advantages, let's take a moment to consider the downsides of reshoring. Yes, there are some challenges that come with this decision. For one, establishing a new supply chain can take time. Finding reliable suppliers who can meet quality standards at reasonable prices is no small feat. It's a process that requires careful planning and execution. Additionally, labor costs in the U.S. are generally higher than in many other countries. While reshoring can save on transportation costs, companies must be prepared for the reality that their products may end up being more expensive. This could potentially reduce profit margins, and that's something every business owner needs to consider. Another challenge is the shortage of skilled workers. After years of offshoring, many industries have seen a decline in the workforce with the necessary skills to handle manufacturing jobs. Companies may find it difficult to recruit and train workers who can meet their production needs. This skills gap is a real concern that can hinder the reshoring process. Let's not forget the financial implications. Reshoring can be an expensive endeavor. Companies may need to invest heavily in new equipment, training, and establishing a new operational framework. It's not just a matter of flipping a switch. It requires significant resources and commitment. Moreover, reshoring can create job shortages in other countries that rely on exporting goods to the U.S. While it's a win for American workers, it can have adverse effects on economies abroad, particularly in countries like China, where many workers depend on those jobs. It's a delicate balance that companies must navigate. Finally, if a company doesn't approach reshoring with a solid plan, it risks damaging its brand or even going out of business. There's a lot of misinformation out there about reshoring, and companies need to do their homework. Understanding the process, the costs involved, and how to execute it successfully is crucial for any business considering this move. So, what factors should a company consider before deciding to reshore? First and foremost, cost effectiveness is key. Companies need to have an accurate understanding of the costs involved and how reshoring will impact their bottom line. Next, the availability of skilled workers is essential. Companies must assess whether they can find the talent needed to support their operations. Technology is another factor. Companies must ensure they can keep up with industry trends and invest in the necessary tools to remain competitive. Space is also a logistical consideration. Companies need adequate facilities to house their operations, including storage for materials and equipment. Lastly, safety regulations cannot be overlooked. Companies must ensure that their manufacturing facilities meet all necessary standards and regulations to protect employees and the environment. Now, let's clarify the difference between reshoring and nearshoring. While both terms refer to bringing manufacturing operations closer to home, reshoring specifically means moving production back to the U.S. from overseas. Nearshoring, on the other hand, involves relocating manufacturing to a nearby country, often within the same region. For example, if a company moves its production from China to Mexico, that's nearshoring. As for which industries benefit from reshoring, the answer is nearly all of them. From furniture to electronics, automotive to medical devices, the advantages of reshoring can apply across the board. Each industry has its unique challenges and opportunities, but the underlying principles remain the same: improved quality, reduced costs, and greater control over the supply chain. In conclusion, reshoring is a complex yet increasingly relevant topic in today's manufacturing landscape. It offers numerous advantages, such as job creation, improved quality control, and lower transportation costs, while also presenting significant challenges that companies must navigate. And as businesses weigh the pros and cons, it's essential to have a clear understanding of their goals and the implications of reshoring for their operations. Whether it's about boosting the local economy or enhancing product quality, reshoring is a decision that could shape the future of manufacturing in the U.S. and beyond. So, if you're a business owner contemplating this move, take the time to research, plan, and strategize. The future of your company might just depend on it.